Welcome back to First Take Live. Talking with Beck, who I call my financial truth educator. By the way, Vic is very clear on this, and so am I, that this is just some information, and it may cause you to think, may cause you to be a little upset, it may cause you to laugh or chuckle or get up, just go off the deep end. But maybe he's completely wrong. So this is just an idea. Take a look at this. Maybe it can make sense for you. All right, Vic. So we're back to this Monopoly thing, and we're playing the board game here. All right.
Yep.
And in this board game, here we go. So now.
Well, again, we're relating this game to what's going on out there in the real world.
Right.
And another thing for us all to remember when we come to play this game of Monopoly, and the same thing's going on out there, the player's only obligation to this game is himself.
Yeah, I come and I sit outside the board.
That's right. In other words, the players do not come to this game with their own money.
That's
true. The game provides the money.
Right.
Okay, so we need to remember that we're not the token, we're the player. The game provides the money, not the player.
Okay.
I'm sure if people went out and bought this game in the store and had to play with their own money, they wouldn't play.
Right.
But out there they're doing that, but that's only happening because we believe we're the token.
Okay.
We believe when we get a bill in the mail that it's our bill. It's a bill to the token. Remember, the player is not the token. The player is separate from all of this. This is the money.
It's the birth certificate.
That's right.
The birth certificate is the playing token.
Which bears a legal name.
A legal name.
Okay, so
it's like the province of Ontario.
Like this, there's the Beck Victor.
Yeah.
And if people were to look on their birth certificate, they'll see that name on there is generally, and certainly on their invoices and bills, that name is in all capital letters.
Yes.
Now that's not a huge issue with me anymore, but grammatically, when we went to school to learn how to spell our names, it was a proper noun, which is upper lowercase.
Right.
That name identifies people. Whereas in all caps format of the same name is something else.
It identifies actually an entity.
The token. That's right. A legal entity, the token. And
All
remember, we people
caps
are not legal entities. We're the player.
Okay.
And I'm going to repeat that lots because we need to remember that. So if the token is moved on the board here and the token is required to pay taxes,
right?
It's of no concern to the player.
Because the token is what owns the money.
It's the token that's being taxed, not the player.
So they say, but in this game, when we're playing it, we go, oh man, you're taking my money. But you're taking the token's money.
Well, that's right, because here's the money, if I may, that comes with the Monopoly game.
Yeah,
this is the money that pays the token's taxes, because this is the money that it must be played with the game.
Right, okay.
And it's the same in Canada. There's legal tender in Canada, and that's the money that must be used to play the game.
Right.
We have no choice in that.
Right.
Good, bad, right, or wrong is not the point, but the game has rules, and the game says, okay, when the token is required to pay taxes, it must be paid in Monopoly money in this case.
Exactly.
Or legal tender in the big game out there.
Right.
No choice.
Okay.
The choice is how we get that money.
All right.
And as we've expressed now, going through the working for a living, the gross pay versus net pay thing, you can see that there's a huge loss happening there every day. And there's no escape from that. It's not possible, because when you're giving 100% and going home with an after-tax less than, eventually you run out of gas. There's nothing positive to come of that.
Right.
So, and there's actually a statistic in Canada, again from Statistics Canada, that 85% of Canadians will die with assets of less than $10,000. Yet, last summer the IMF said that Canada is worth $155 trillion in assets. So how is it possible that the people that produce those assets die with assets of less than $10,000? It's the way we're playing the game is the problem.
All right, carry on.
We're acting like a token.
Right.
Okay, and as long as we keep doing that, we'll be doing the same with our children, and our children's children, and our children's children, and there will be no end of it. And the reason that General Motors is, I know they're suffering in manufacturing vehicles over there, is the consumer. It's not General Motors' fault. It's not the employee's fault. The consumer has no more credit.
They're maxed.
They're tapped out.
Yes, we're in a credit crunch. We're in a credit crisis.
That's right. And in the credit
crisis. So
no
longer we didn't have enough money, and it was because there was that shortfall that you talk about. We ended up borrowing money just to keep going.
That's right. And
okay.
we borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow.
Right.
And borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow. And you can only borrow for so long before you're tapped out.
Right, before you can't borrow anymore.
That's right.
Because you can't service the debt.
That's correct. And that's basically what's happening to the worldwide economies right now, is the consumer, after the accumulation of debt over the last 30, 40 years. Back in the 60s, the debt in this country was very teeny. And then in the 70s, the consumer started to get greedy and started charge it, not thinking about the future. And so where purchasing power has been going this direction, debts have been going this direction. And you have to remember, on a debt, there's an interest payable.
Right.
And that does not exist. The bank lends a principal amount. It does not create the interest into circulation. And I'm not bank bashing here. This is our fault.
Well,
our choices.
Right. We decided this right here.
That's right.
The bank's not at fault here. The bank's only doing what we told it to do.
That's right.
Right.
And the ultimate, if I may, in case I forget here, the ultimate solution for we people that are going to work and building these assets, there's only one way to stop this, and that is you work for free. Because when you work for free, there is no cost of goods.
Because there's no cost of labor, but what about the raw materials?
Well, where do the raw materials come from? The ground.
Right.
What does that cost? God gave it all for nothing. It's free.
Okay.
However, a man came along and said, that's my tree.
Right.
And I'll sell it to you. The carpenter. And the carpenter says, well, I've got an investment in the tree, so now I've got to charge for my labor to sell the table to get my investment back.
Right.
So it started with the concept of ownership, really,
Okay.
in our consciousness, if you will, which is back to the Babylon time. But at the moment in time in our history that we forgot that the planet belongs to all of us equally, including all of its resources, and we do what we do out of love for each other rather than for money. As soon as we got the concept of ownership and wanted to be paid for our labor, this is where we're at today.
Okay. But
And so the only answer to solve the problem this is not going to happen overnight, and I'm not delusional about that, but the ultimate solution is that if the worker works for free, remember the natural resources cost nothing. It's the cost to pay the labor to dig them out.
So let's say I have a backyard, right?
Yep.
Okay, I got a backyard, and in my backyard is every mineral I ever needed to build a car.
Yep.
Okay, so all I've got to do is take my time to dig it up, and then all of a sudden I put out of whatever's in my backyard, I build this car.
Yep.
Sounds ridiculous, but let's play.
Let's say you build 2 cars.
Okay, I built 2 cars.
You only need 1.
Right.
I do the same thing in my backyard, and I build 2 houses.
Right. So I'll give you my car, and you give me a house.
That's right. What did it cost?
Nothing. My time.
Are you happy?
It costs you my time.
You got a house in the car, and I got a house in the car.
All works out good.
So the point is, there's no cost there, is there?
No.
There's no accounting of, well, we invested this much, so we've got to recover this much.
Okay.
So when the people finally realize that it's the cost of our labor that is that is creating the cost of these goods that is the price, when we stop doing that, then there is no cost, and now everything is free. What I mean by free is we expend our labor, like you said, to build that car. That's the only cost, and that comes freely from God anyhow, and we're doing that anyhow.
Okay.
Using our labor.
All right.
But that's the end of it.
Okay, we probably lost half the audience now, but yeah, okay. All right,
but that's a hard fact to face, but that's the truth.
Well, let's assume, for example, that if I don't get paid and you don't get paid, but I go build something because I can build it because all the materials are sitting in my backyard, just for example,
Yep.
and I don't charge for my labor, and you don't, I just give it to you, and you have something I want, and I get it back. Sounds great. Sounds a little socialist, but it sounds great.
Well, I'm not here to tell people what to do.
Okay.
I'm pointing out a serious problem if we continue on the treadmill of working for a living and have that difference between gross pay and net pay.
Yes.
Having to then borrow from the banks the difference and then pay interest on that borrowing,
Right.
adding to the debt.
Yes.
And remember, interest does not exist.
Right.
It's not there, but it has to be paid.
Okay.
So there is never enough in circulation for everyone to meet their financial obligations.
So eventually we're going to go down the pipes.
Well,
And here we are.
it's like having a sink with you keep pouring water, you keep the tap on full, but you've got the drain out.
Right.
Yes, it will hold some water for a while, but you put another extra hole or 2 in there, more debt, and then it won't hold any water, and that's
Okay.
the end of it all. And that's
right.
kind of where we're at. The ship is sinking.
Okay.
It's full of holes. And
All
it's
right.
debt.
All right.
It's
So
doing
now
it.
what?
So, well, then we have our economists, and I'm not picking on economists, but if we get back to that $1 billion that it costs to produce the goods and services that are for sale next year, and we only got $650 million, yes, you can invest your remainder of your purchasing power into RSPs and get 4% a year in interest, but that's not going to come close to recovering what you need to pay your debts collectively. In other words, we need to, if the goods and services that we produced for sale are $1 billion, we need to have $1 billion in our pockets to buy back that to have a balanced economy.
All right, we're going to go to break talking about maybe how we can balance it or what we need to be more aware of, and then we can ask some good questions. I'm sitting here with Vic Beck, and you're with us on First Take Live. Stay with us. Welcome back to First Take Live. So now that we know that we're going down this big sinkhole, and most of us have to admit it, that it's not looking rosy out there. So now what? All right, so we have to understand more yet, because we've got to understand more about how this game works. So here's this game, and we're going down the tubes. We are not the person. I'm the person that is playing the game, but the token is the game piece. My birth certificate is a game piece.
Yep.
Therefore, that's all. If I don't have a birth certificate, I can't play in this game called Canada.
That's right. You,
All right.
You cannot get a bank account. You cannot get a job. You couldn't buy an automobile. You just simply
I
cannot
can't
play
play
the
the
game.
game.
I just want to, just for safety's sake here, is you use the word person.
Okay.
Person is actually a trap. And
What do you mean?
People are not persons. Well, if you look on the $50 bills from 2 years ago in Canada, on there it says women are persons. Think about that. Women are persons. Well, if women are persons, then there's no women.
Okay.
And why can't women be women? Why can't men be men?
Women are women and men are men.
That's
but
right.
Women are persons.
But legally, women are persons.
And it said
why
that in
the
bill.
difference?
Why? What's the deal on that?
Why? Well,
Okay.
this is the person.
Ah, a person. Okay.
And
So-
when women won the right to become persons, what they actually won was the equality thing, was the right to be recognized as a token
in the game.
in the game.
Okay.
If you look at all the laws in this game here, and I'm talking the provincial and federal statutes, and I've read almost all of them, they have a definition section